Should we probably well, just a top-level personal preference video towards the two main types of RPGs of the video game variety. And I'm kind of curious how common my views are, to be honest. Hey, Zenpak here. So I've been an RPG fan for basically my entire English-speaking life, right? Of course, I am talking about video game RPGs. Sorry, Dungeons and Dragons fans, that sounds cool too, but I just didn't have that type of friends growing up to get into that world back in the days, right? So video game RPGs, it was since the time of basically the Super Nintendo. Oh boy, I know I'm dating myself. Whatever. Okay. So I call myself a video game RPG fan for years and years until I found out there was a entire other type of RPGs that existed on the PC side. Okay, I guess these days that type of RPG is called CRPGs for computer RPGs, right? But back when I was a kid, it was definitely just a PC thing, not a Mac thing, because Macs were just bad about games. Okay, what can you do? So, as an adult, now I'm aware of CRPGs and console RPGs, or what people are calling JRPGs these days. There's that divide, right? So today I want to outline what I consider the main differences between the two genres and why I might prefer one over the other, or at least at different times in my life, right? Who is the audience for a video such as this, you might ask? Well, actually, this is mostly for my wifey, okay? Because she is, relatively speaking, a pretty new gamer for this genre, and I wanted a moment to compose my thoughts so that I can hopefully lure her into the ever deeper descent into the hobby that is video gaming, okay? Okay. So if you enjoy some random rants from a dude with clearly no production skills, like, subscribe, share, comment, or whatever. I'll be great regardless, because I just do these for funsies. Hit that bell icon. I seriously don't know where that is still, because I am asking you guys to do something that I rarely do on this platform. Yep, that's me, a casual hypocrite about a minor internet detail. So, first up are the RPGs that I do know and love the most. That's the JRPG genre, right? I mean, obviously, I'm generalizing about a whole genre at these points. Won't hold for every game in this group, but I do think JRPGs are really most analogous to playing like a visual novel, right? Instead of reading something, you are actively engaging in some activities that move a plot towards its straight line end. Right. Sometimes you're given the illusion of choices, but most of the time the branching dialogue options, even if offered, will end up getting you to the same result regardless, right? Thus why I call it an illusion. Now I get it, if you grew up with the infinite variability of tabletop role-playing games, the idea of a distinct lack of choices in games, in game format might seem like a very poor design decision. After all, this is a video game, not a book, right? In the confines of the genres of gaming, a lack of variation is a design decision, not a necessity, right? But here's where I think JRPG's main appeal is, right? It can be extremely comforting to not have to stress out about making the wrong choice at a certain moment in your gaming life, right? The abundance of choice in and of itself doesn't necessarily mean a better experience, right? Now, this exists in other genres, right? Like platformers, 2D versus 3D. In one, you only have to worry about jumping while moving from left to right, which is already difficult enough. In the other, you have a whole 360 degrees of movement, thus making the world a much larger, potentially emptier feeling type of environment, okay? One I don't think is better than another, they're just different, right? So in this sense, I think the main appeal of JRPG narratives are quite close to a good book, right? Now, if you trust the authors or producers or designers of certain series, such as Dragon Quest or Final Fantasy, then it's almost a certainty that you will find some comfort in trekking through one of their games, right? Oh, warning. Sure, you can't affect who gets killed or how to overcome obstacles specifically, but you know at the end of the day, your group of intrepid heroes will win the day and save the world, right? Isn't that a shining light against the real world of uncertainty? Now, on the CRPGs, right? I mean, in my mind, I call them Western-style RPGs, because, that's a better comparison with JRPGs in terms of nomenclature, right? Now, I've only played a few of these. While I enjoy them, it definitely feels like a totally different type of experience, right? Of course, it's partially based on the fact that I grew up on a steady diet of console JRPGs, right? And I think that personal history, they do matter, right? It's almost similar to how well one can learn a new language, right? Because that depends on what your former or mother language is, right? For me, CRPG seems to stand for that infinitely larger pool of choices, right? Right now, the game that I have in mind to compare JRPGs to is, of course, Baldur's Gate 3, as a pinnacle of the CRPG genre, right? To me, instead of being similar to a regular old book, as JRPGs are, CRPGs are more akin to one of those choose-your-own adventure books, right? Now, this analogy isn't super rock solid because in book forms, choose-your-own adventure books are mostly for children, right? I am not saying CRPGs are mostly for children. Good lord, no. But CRPGs do give gamers so much choice as to how we want to approach friends or foes alike, that I think it creates a bit of a problem, especially with people with minor OCD tendencies, such as myself, okay? Having choice is great, unless I really, really find it hard to move on from any particular given decision, because I really want to be able to tell what every choice would lead to, right? And in a big budget game like Baldur's Gate 3, each of, let's say, a handful of choices could lead to another handful of choice and another handful of choice, making even moving the plot forward a little bit a paralyzing, potentially, experience. Okay, again, that may just be me, but I doubt it. So am I saying CRPGs are bad because it gives gamers choices? Of course not. I just think I need to mentally readjust my entire approach to these kind of long narratives and trust my so-called decision-making as an in-game avatar would more, okay? In a way, this actually is a more true role-playing experience, right? And that is a huge positive, of course, for this genre. So, do I still prefer JRPGs of my childhood versus CRPGs that seems to treat me more like a real adult who might want to take on a multitude of roles within the confines of whatever fantasy world? I think personally, it really depends on how I feel at any specific snapshot in time, right? I think the linearity of JRPGs can be especially comforting for moments in my life when I felt like I had no idea where my life was actually going, right? It's especially more appealing when I was younger because, well, everything in front of me in real life can seem like a bit of a blur, right? If I had no idea where I will live, who I'll be with, or what to do for work in the next year or 5, why would I want to deal with that same level of uncertainty and anxiety in my gaming life, right? The certainty of where the narrative is likely to end up in JRPG form, I think I found at that point more appealing, right? I don't need more decision paralysis because I have already a ton of that in real life, right? However, now I'm retired early, okay? I think I might be more open to the idea of the harder gaming choices that are inherently impossible in JRPG form. Now, I haven't actually gotten Baldur's Gate 3 yet, but I am certainly positively will at some point, right? It's almost a challenge to myself, right? These days, I have much better control over my actual life choices. I chose where I live, who I'm with, and how I'm going to spend my time clearly and decisively these days. So maybe I'll have more mental leeway to deal with uncertainty in a virtual form. Okay, does that kind of make sense? Or am I just twisting myself into a justification pretzel just so I can buy a new game? Could go either way on this one. So, in conclusion, is JRPG or CRPG superior? Neither is true, right? I think they're just different from each other. Though I said these days that I might like having real game-affecting choices more, I still will go back to the classic JRPGs and their ilks as well. After all, genres of games are never set in stone, right? They are still evolving, and well, I'd love to think that I am always growing as a person. There is something to be said for just plain old nostalgia as well. So what about you guys? Do you have a preference, or do you switch around between the two genres? Let me know in the comments below. Cheers. I'll approach it.